pitch up, pitch up. The solution is not just the power, the solution is the pitch. All right, good. Now you can level off 1,100.
What a ride. I mean, who would have thought just a month ago was the first time I came to Van Nuys Airport. This feels very familiar now. Had my first flight, and it still hasn't sunk in, but I finished my check ride today and I passed at the first attempt.
Airspeed first, airspeed first. You want to count 5 seconds. 1, 3, 4, 5, go, turn.
Citation 901 Golf Golf.
Right away, turn to the number. 73.
Take up 16 right 901 Golf Golf.
Turn to the number. Turning to the number.
A bit about the journey. It was always a dream as a child to be a pilot, and somehow that got sidelined. Eventually, when I committed to doing it, 14-day pilot was incredibly useful in making that dream come true. It started with Haura, Gio, Captain Gemma, the whole team in Indonesia spending time with me. I was in Jakarta for pose with them. They just made sure that the foundation and the groundwork was solid. We did a lot of simulators, doing the routes that we will do cross country here. So a lot of the prep happened while I was still close to home in Singapore. And then they shipped me off to LA saying that I'm ready. And that's when the real flying began, the real hard work began. It was challenging. I mean, I'll be very honest about it. This is not easy in any way. This is a challenge that you need to sign up and sort of accept. And that makes it even more sort of fulfilling in many ways. Even at the point of signing Captain Gemma was very clear that having a check ride date set before you fly to the US adds a lot of pressure to the training you need to get. A lot of skills need to be internalized very quickly in that time period. The instructors were fantastic. We were flying planes that we were familiar with. All of them are Piper Archers, they're Piper Warriors. Very consistent feel across the planes. The instructors, I had a chance to work with a number of them. Special thanks to Captain Khaled. He was instrumental in my training. Captain Gemma Dror was my primary instructor. Loved it. Rumi, Captain Alex Sharaf, Mahmoud Atia. I had a chance to fly with all of them, and all of them have their own personal ways that you can learn from them and sharpen your skills as a pilot. The big milestone for any pilot is their first solo, right? So you've learned all the skills, you've put in the hours, but are you really at a place where you can be the solo pilot in command with nobody else there? And that's a big milestone that instructors take very seriously. You need to meet a fairly high bar to be left alone. And that for me was a lot of work went into that, and rightly so. There were periods when I felt I was ready, but you make the call and say, hey, let's give it a little bit more time to just make doubly sure that you are physically fit and energized to be able to do it, rather than just push for a milestone. The next big milestone after that is solo cross country. So taking the aircraft and going to destinations gave you a very good sense for the regional flying routes, and you've of course done it several times with your instructors and you're very familiar with it, and culminates in the check ride or the final test for the private pilot license, which I had this morning. Two big aspects to it. One is the oral or the theory part, where you have to plan a route and explain the various considerations, the weather, the traffic control delays, performance restrictions, etc., and explain that in order to convince the DPE that you can make decisions as a pilot in command that are safe and sensible. I think one of the big guidance I got from Captain Gemma going into it was, do not see the check ride as something that you need to pass the very first time you go. Don't psych yourself out about it. See it as this is a great opportunity for you to be with a pilot who's done this for 30 plus years, has a lot of experience, and he's spending that 2 hours with you, fine-tuning your skills, which will only pay back to you. From each of the instructors, I don't know who to talk about. Captain Khaled, one of his statements sort of comes to mind. There was a point where I had gotten into a rut about my landings. I mean, you make progress and then you hit a point where refining it further just takes a lot more effort, right? That you've hit your sort of, almost you feel like you've plateaued and you're not progressing. When that happened, he said, my energy affects yours and your energy affects the way you fly the plane. And his ability to be really calm and supportive in the aircraft was enough for me. And doing small steps to correct my center line, small things which just needed the patience and the calmness to be able to correct. And I think that changed my way of flying. So thank you so much, Captain Khaled. Thank you so much, 14-day pilot team. And 14-day pilot for me was the only school that was willing to take on that challenge and support me in my learning journey. So I highly recommend it. If you are committed to being a pilot, I suggest go ahead, claim it and do it. Right? It's the greatest feeling ever. Thank you.
This you can change with power. Notice if I add a little bit of power, now the plane looks like it's going to go land further down the runway. So you pick a point, like you see the second white arrow from the front? Yep. That's kind of where I want you to take me.
braking actions. Ups, down, pull back the...
Alright, go. Beautiful short build. That's on spot. Really good.